Hi guys, welcome to my studio. In today's tutorial, we're going to talk about using a drawing tablet. So if you're an artist who does a lot of drawing, illustration, painting, and you're wondering about how to transition into a digital medium and get your art into the digital world, this is the video for you. My name's Shayda Campbell, and on this channel I do art tutorials, so if you're into that, consider subscribing. Now for today's tutorial, we're going to get into using a wireless drawing tablet, and the tablet that I'm using is the Huion Inspiroid G10T wireless tablet. They did send it to me, so I'm going to do a little bit of a review of the tablet, and then we're going to jump into a tutorial, and I'm just going to try to give you some of my tips and tricks and make this process a little more comfortable, make the idea of using a drawing tablet seem a little more approachable whether you're a novice or a professional artist.
So let's take a little look-see at the Huion G10T. You can see that it has a metal back, so it's quite a sturdy, durable piece of equipment, and it's also very, very thin, and I've found it to be quite portable. The surface of the tablet is very, very smooth to the touch, but then when you put the pen on it, there's a nice traction there, and it really does, it definitely mimics the feel of pen on paper. It doesn't feel like the pen is slick and sliding across the tablet, not at all. And the tablet also has a trackpad so that while you're using it, you can just use this to do all the functionality on your computer. And there's a couple buttons at the top there, and those I have them programmed to zoom in and out, but you can program them to do whatever you want. And then let's talk a little about the pen. This pen has over 8,000 pressure points, so it's a really good, very sensitive stylus. And it comes in this cool case, and there's all these extra nibs, so that's a nice feature of this tablet as well. And you'll see what I mean about the sensitivity when we get into this. And I think a concern when you're starting in digital drawing is that you're going to be not really aware of where you're at and where you're working on the page, and all you have to do is hover the stylus or the pen above the drawing tablet and it will recognize and show you where you are on the page, and then you just put your pen down and begin to draw. It's really intuitive. So that's the tablet that I'm using, but no matter which tablet you've got, let's talk a little about how you can use it. So I'm going into Photoshop, I'm creating a new project. I'm making mine the size of a YouTube thumbnail because that's what I'm designing, and I'll just call it Tablet Thumb. So I'm going to create that new project, and then the very first thing I want to do is create a few layers. And this is kind of like having a bunch of tracing paper. And you guys know how much I love tracing paper because you can extract what you like and get rid of what you don't. So I'm going to call one layer Sketch and one layer Good Drawing. So I've sort of got a rough copy and a good copy, and I can make a whole bunch of layers, but that's where I'm going to start. And then the next thing we're going to do is figure out our brush. So I'm coming over here to the brush tool, or you can press B, and then I am going to do a right click or a double finger click to bring up my brush menu here. And you can see I can change the size of the nib. So I usually go quite small. I like a detailed, like I want a nice sharp pencil, you know? And then you can choose the type of nib, and I usually go with a hard edge round, and I just feel like that's like a pencil. If I want to do a contour drawing, or it's sort of like my Pigma Micron, it's just a simple black nib. Okay, and then the next thing we want to do is go up here, and this is sort of your to toggle the pressure sensitivity on and off. So when you have this on, then the pen is going to pick up the way you move it. So if you press hard, it's going to be a thicker line. If you have a nice light pressure, it's going to be a thin line. Okay, that's a little too small maybe for you guys to see what I'm talking about. So let me change the size of the nib really quickly here. So we'll move this up, and now you can see as I apply a light pressure and then a firm pressure, you can see such a difference in the line, and it's amazing what that stylus can pick up. So it's pretty cool. And you can see here that the pen is really reacting the way a normal pen or a normal pencil would. I'm going to write my name. I haven't got this down. I'm not perfect at this yet, but nor will I ever be. But you can see how you can get a nice brush script, and you're going to do, you know, heavier pressure on the downstroke and that nice light, thin, delicate upstroke. So the pen, those pressure points, that stylus, it really picks up the way you move it. So it really has quite a natural feel, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I was not I wouldn't say I was eager to start using a drawing tablet, but I was interested, I was curious, and I have been very pleasantly surprised. So now we're going to try to do a full-scale drawing, and we're going to use those layers. You're going to go to your layer called Sketch, that's your sketchy layer, and you're going to turn the opacity down to about 50%. And I think one of the most challenging things about drawing in the digital space is just sort of getting a feel for the page. Without that 8x11 sketchbook in front of you, it's hard to know how big things are and where to place things. So that's why I do the sketch layer. So I've got this very light, barely there, translucent layer, and I'm just going to draw say I'm drawing this garden scene. I just want to lay out where things are going to be. So, I'm going to put a flower and it's about a third of the page. It goes up about a third of the page and it sits here, and then I'm doing a stem of eucalyptus here, and I just do a really rough sketch. So I think you guys can see where this is going. This is my sketchy layer, and doing this initial sketch layer has really helped me to move into the digital art world. And also you can zoom in, so anytime you want to do something really detailed, just zoom in and the space of the tablet will remain the same, but you're drawing in a much smaller area of the page. And I'm just going to continue forward here doing my sketch. Oh, you can see how I just put too much pressure there. So that's how much of a difference you can achieve when you press hard or press lightly. So it's pretty cool. So you can see how the drawing of my little garden here is coming together. And then once I'm happy with the way that this looks, I'll go up here, I'll click on the layer called Good Drawing, or you can label these whatever you want. I'm going to change the size of my nib. I'm going to make sure the opacity is 100%, and then I'll probably zoom in again a little bit because I'm definitely wanting to add detail now. And now that I know I've got everything laid out properly, and I've got my smaller nib, and I'm going to start working on my good copy. Of course, you always have access to an eraser, but I think this is a question for illustrators and hand letterers, like, how do I sketch? How do I really move into the digital space? I can't get things on the first try. I can't just draw perfectly. And for me, using the layers has been sort of the answer to that question. And of course, you still have your eraser, as I said. And here you can see me going around and using the initial sketch as my guide. But now I'm zoomed in and I'm able to add much more detail and give this flower sort of the time and care that it deserves. So before I just drew the shape of a leaf, well, now I'm drawing all the teeth and the veining and all the details that I want that leaf to have. And you can see me going in here and adding a second leaf, and I don't use the sketch layer as an exact drawing. It's just the guide to help me make sure I can really do the drawing that I want to do. And you can see on the veining of the leaves, this is a great chance to, or a great example of how the pressure points on that pen really work. As I go down toward the center of the leaf, I'm adding more pressure, and it gives me this beautiful detail on the veining. And I'm just going to fill in and just give a little bit of shading here while I'm still using the black nib. And that's my basic contour drawing done. So you can see how I've used the sketch layer. Now I'm going to go in and grab my eraser, so E for eraser, or you can get it in the left-hand menu there. And then I'm going to zoom in even more, and I'm just going to fix up any little areas where I might have missed. But you'll be surprised when you're using the tablet, it quickly becomes very, very intuitive. And it's funny, your hand knows, and even when you're doing one petal and then another, you're thinking, I'm not going to know where to stop my pen without having a drawing right in front of me. But your body quickly adapts, and you're looking on the screen and your hand is on the tablet, and it just works. So you can erase there, and now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of color. So I've added another layer just called color, and I'm putting it underneath the good drawing layer, so the color will sort of lay beneath the black contour drawing. And I'm going to play around with the size and shape and type of nib. I wanted sort of an angled nib, as if it were a chisel tip marker, if that makes sense. And I'm going to grab a nice pink color, nice light pink. And then I'm going to make sure that the opacity is down because I want this very translucent sort of watercolor shade or watercolor like look to my color. And so I've got an angled sort of chisel tip marker, a very translucent watercolory type of color, and then I'm just adding that beneath the drawing of the flower. So what I want you guys to really see here is that I can achieve a drawing that is so in my style, and it didn't take me long to kind of get the hang of that. So when I started drawing in the digital space, I was like, well, how am I going to retain my own style? And I quickly picked up tips I quickly picked up a few tricks for how to achieve that, and I think you will too. You know, I'm showing you how I do my thing, but you're gonna figure out a way to do your own style. For me, it was all about, you know, I'm just adding a bit of color that's very watery and translucent. I'm not filling things in all the way. I think that's something I always talk about on the channel. I don't want to color in the lines. I want to color slightly off of those lines. I want there to be white space. I just think that gives a nice sophisticated look, and I'm doing that here. Just those leaves don't have to be colored in just so. And then by using a brush color that's not 100% opaque, I'm able to layer the color, and that's how I get that nice shading. So I don't have to constantly go back in and pick a new color. Oh, I need a darker green. No, I'm just gonna layer that same green, and then I can of course use a darker green or whatever, but you have a lot of options just by using the opacity meter, just by changing the angle of your brush so that your chisel tip is going in one direction and then another. And there's a lot to play around with. There's a lot to get used to and try out, but I think you'll be drawing in your own style before you know it. This is very intuitive. You can pick this up, and I hope by watching today's video that you feel that this is a little more approachable. Well, thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed learning about the drawing tablet, and please comment below and let me know, is this something you want to see more of on the channel? Are you into digital hand lettering and illustration? And two quick things. One, all channel bonus content is available on my Patreon, and I post new material there every Friday, Saturday, so go check that out. It's all available for $2 a month. And one other thing, there's going to be a little giveaway over on my Instagram tomorrow. That's Saturday, March 10th. So check that out at Shada Campbell on my Instagram. And I will see you next week with a new tutorial.